Hello everyone, this is Jody with Grace and Faith, and today we are on our second topic of our anxiety series. What do people with anxiety look like? So first off, I need to apologize about my setting here today. Our internet went off at our house, but I really wanted to bring this series to you, so I had to do it out in my car right now. And this is our lighting that we got going on. So I apologize for the setting, but it doesn't stop the message that's coming at you today. So let's dive in. What do people with anxiety look like? If you may have in your past had experience with someone who has anxiety, and that experience or that person may have formed your image that you have in your mind of what that person looks like. But the thing is that we all look different, and each person that suffers with it deals with different symptoms or how it projects out towards others. But the thing is that when you see a mom at a park playing with her two kids, you may not know that she's suffering with anxiety. The top CEO of a company, you don't see him suffering with an anxiety. Or the celebrity that you think has it all together, you may not see them having an anxiety disorder. But that is what a typical person with anxiety looks like. We are the people that you interact with each and every day that you may not know the struggles that we have going on inside of our minds and inside of our bodies. And so while there are no specific outward signs that you can see necessarily all of the time, there are some certain situations in my life that I'm going to speak about that show up, and it may be more noticeable to my friends and family. Or maybe you're going to say, that's why she does that. That's why she acts like that, right? And so let's just dive in some of these situations. Number one, sometimes people with anxiety will decline an invitation to an event that they may want to attend. Or they may tell you initially that they're going to come and then later back out of that activity. And so you as their friend or loved one may be really disappointed that your friend never attends that activity with you or event or whatever it may be. But for the person with anxiety, like, they really want to come, but there's something that happened inside of them where their anxiety rose and that they just couldn't handle the emotions that they were going through to get them there. Whether it was, they couldn't find the right outfit. In their mind, everything wasn't working out right. Or the stress of trying to find someone to watch their kids. Or the stress of being in an environment that they might not feel comfortable. They might not know the people. Whatever the case may be, their anxiety was far greater than their desire to come to that event. Or, there's been events where I really, really, really wanted to go and I was disappointed that I didn't make myself go, but it was just too overwhelming. I'm back to that word, overwhelming. It was too overwhelming for me to pick myself up and go. I was actually talking to my dad today and he said, Jody, you are always late, which I have to disagree with. I'm not always late. I'm normally right on time. My husband's over here shaking his head and laughing. I think he might agree. But I'm not always late. I'm normally right on time. But there are situations in which I purposely arrive late. And if it's a situation where I feel like there might not be a lot of people that I know there, and it might be socially awkward for me to walk in, and I know it's going to raise my anxiety, then I will purposely show up late so that I feel more comfortable coming in. Sometimes people with anxieties will go to an event, they get themselves there and they're proud of themselves, but then as they're there, something triggers the anxiety to whatever it may be, whether somebody shows up and it raises their anxiety, or maybe too many people show up and that raises their anxiety, whatever it might be. They become overwhelmed and then they leave early. So if your friend leaves your events all the time, like early, and you're like, why is she always leaving, he or she? That might be one of the reasons why, is because their anxiety is overcoming them and they just need to remove themselves from that situation. Another situation, so we might not come to your event at all. We might arrive late, or we might even leave early. All of those might be signs and symptoms of someone who is struggling with anxiety. Number two, they often obsess over small issues that may not be important to you, but to them, they become obsessive. My probably biggest one that I obsess with is having our house locked up at night. I keep looking this way because my husband's sitting next to me, and I will every night. I have to check every single door, every single window. I have to make sure our garage door is closed and our house alarm is set. And even then, even if I do it, I'll get to bed and I'm like, did I set the alarm? Did I do that? And what's worse is when he sets the alarm or he locks up the house, he'll come to bed and I'm like, did you shut the garage door? And his answer is normally, yeah, babe, I did. I don't trust him. I get up and I go back downstairs and I check the garage door. Now, to my benefit, you need to come in here and show people that one because he's over here snickering, right? Like, you can't, you gotta come over. It's all right. See, to my benefit, what have you done in the past?
Well, sometimes the bed is really, really warm. And I really don't want to get up and shut the garage door. I'd rather take my chances with a robber.
So he has lied to me in the past and said, yeah, I've locked it. And I didn't believe him. I went down and checked it, and it was still up. And so, but that's something that I obsess about. Things as, like, my kids playing in the backyard, I obsess about them getting hurt or somebody's taking them from me. Just even whatever it may be, you know, you left the curling iron on, you didn't shut the garage door when you left. All of these little things too, like someone like my husband, it doesn't make any sense to him why I would stress out about it. It's not a big deal. But to me, it's a huge deal. Number 3, people with anxiety often will either go to bed late or they get up early or they might do both. For me, I have trouble going to sleep at night. My mind does not shut off. My mind is constantly running. And whether it's, you know, I need to get this at the grocery store, or I need to do this, I need to remember to do that tomorrow, my mind is constantly going. If it's not my to-do list, I'm worrying about something, or I'm replaying things that have happened in the past. And so my mind doesn't shut off, and I have trouble falling asleep. And then if I do fall asleep, if something should wake me up, like a noise outside, or, you know, my daughter crying or whatever, if something wakes me up, then I'm awake and my mind clicks on, and then I have trouble going back to sleep. So your loved one may have trouble with their sleep patterns because of that. Number 4, people with anxiety are often thinking of the worst situation. No matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I am constantly scanning and looking around, trying to figure out what's the possibility of that can really happen. Like, and I'm not exaggerating right now, we're sitting in a parking lot doing this video, and I'm like, are my car doors locked? Because anybody can come up around me right now and like break in and rob us or threaten us or whatever. Like, that's how my mind constantly works. And maybe that's usual. I don't know. Maybe that's usual for everybody, but I know in my mind, I'm always assessing each situation, trying to figure out what's the worst situation. Not even just like the situation that I'm in, but like if my kids get sick, like my mind doesn't go to my kid just has a cold. My kid has to have the worst disease ever, and you know, the worst situation is coming. And one of my friends actually tells me all the time, Jody, don't look for the zebra, look for the horse. So like when you're out looking at a field, at least where we live, if you look out in a field, it's easy, it's common to see a horse. It's not a big deal to see a horse out in the field, but you don't normally see a zebra out in a field where we live. And so her point was, like, just look for the common stuff. That's more than likely what's going to be there. Don't always be looking for the zebra. And that's a tip that I take with me often, is I have to remind myself, Jody, don't look for the zebra. And it's still a struggle, but that's a tip that has helped me try to overcome some of that constant fear of the worst situation. Number 5, we always believe that we are the reason that some failure has happened, and then we beat ourselves up over it. So if there's a failed relationship or something didn't go right, it's automatically in our minds our fault. We did something, we said something, we looked at somebody the wrong way, whatever it may be, we blame ourselves. And then we beat ourselves up. We then think about that situation, and we continue to think about it over and over and over, and think like, what could I have done wrong? Or how can I repair this relationship? Or how could I fix it for future? So someone with anxiety is always thinking that type of process of like, it's my fault. And then how, like, they beat themselves up after it. And then that causes a worse cycle, because then you beat yourself up after it, and then you're thinking, well, it was my fault, which then raises your anxiety, and it creates even more and more anxiety. Number 6, we are often too tired to do the things that we really want to do. after an entire day of being mentally exhausted and oftentimes physically exhausted, because we learned yesterday in our post or in our video that we did that like there's a lot of physical symptoms that people with anxiety experience. And sometimes, I mean, it's you have tension and you have a lot of physical symptoms. And so after a whole day of the mental fight and the physical drainage that you have, you're just too tired sometimes to really just do anything. And so we will often just skip out on things and we just kind of just want to stay in bed. And sometimes that will lead to depression because people are just too exhausted to do anything, and then they get themselves into a depression. And so those are some of the situations that I can see in my life that stem from my anxiety that some of my family and friends may not truly understand. Now, there's a lot of other situations or other things that people may experience that your friend go through. And so I would suggest that you reach out to your friend that you may know or your loved one or even yourself and say, like, is this situation resulting from my anxiety? And then if that is your friend or loved one, reach out to them and see how you can support them. Going forward in our series, we are going to talk about some tips on how to overcome some of these situations that I'd use for myself. And I'm also going to give you tips to help your loved one, to help support them and encourage them through this time. So back to our original question, what does a person with anxiety look like? It may be things that you don't recognize yourself, but there isn't one specific type of person. There's not a specific look of someone with anxiety. You interact with people each and every day who are suffering with anxiety. And, for me, for many years, I didn't even know that I was experiencing anxiety at all. And it's only been until recently that I've started to realize, that's from my anxiety. So I thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you tomorrow as we continue our series. Thanks for joining me and have a great night.